She was a ghost in the bustling corridors of the Grand Athenaeum, a keeper of galactic knowledge on a world that valued only one kind of creation. Her people, the Kairi, were elegant and long-lived, their society a masterpiece of art, philosophy, and technological harmony. Yet their greatest art was biology. Population was meticulously managed, and the right to form a family bond, a mate covenant, was granted only to those who could contribute to it genetically. She had been tested, as all were, and the result was a single devastating word: barren, infertile, a dead end. Her name, once spoken with warmth, was now a murmured afterthought. She tended the memory crystals of a civilization that believed she had no future. He was a knot of scarred muscle and silent patience. Stationed on Kairi as part of the Galactic Concord's cultural exchange, humanity's entry into the galactic community had been met with curiosity and some disdain. They were so loud, so blunt, so physical. He was a soldier, though he wore no uniform here. They called him an observer. He spent his days in the Athenaeum's tranquility, studying KYRII history, a subject of quiet fascination for him. He saw her daily, a slender figure with eyes the color of twilight, moving with a grace that seemed to make no sound. He also saw the way others avoided her, the subtle shift in posture when she entered a conversation that would quickly die. One afternoon, during the Festival of Blossoms, the divide became a chasm. The festival was a celebration of potential, of new beginnings. In the central plaza, beneath bioluminescent trees, bonds were announced. She watched from the shadows of a data spire, a silent witness to the joy she would never have. A male Kairi, once a casual acquaintance, passed by with his new bondmate. His eyes flicked to her, and he spoke, not with malice, but with a cold, clinical pity. "It is a sorrow your path is solitary. The universe demands growth." The words were a formal pronouncement of her irrelevance. She did not weep. She had finished weeping cycles ago. She simply turned, her delicate features a mask of calm, and walked back into the Athenaeum, feeling smaller than the dust motes dancing in the beams of light. He had seen it. He had been observing the festival's customs, but his attention had narrowed to her, as it often did. He saw the stiffening of her shoulders, the slight dip of her head. He understood the words, for he had studied their social structures. A cold, hard knot formed in his gut, a feeling he recognized from battle, the need to protect. He found her in the archival vault, her thin fingers brushing over a crystal containing the epic poetry of a dead star system. The room was cool and silent. "It is not true," he said, his voice a low rumble in the quiet space. It was the first time he had spoken to her directly. She started, turning. Her twilight eyes were wide. "Soldier, you are mistaken. The data is correct. I am incomplete." "No," he said, taking a careful step forward. He moved not like a Kairi with fluid grace, but with a deliberate, solid certainty. "They are wrong. Your value is not a single function." She gave a soft, bitter sound. "You are human. You do not understand. For my people, to be unable to nurture a new life is to be a branch that will never bear fruit. Beautiful, perhaps, but ultimately useless." He shook his head. "A branch has many purposes: shelter, shade, a place for others to rest. My people, we have a different understanding." He gestured around at the endless rows of crystals. "You keep the history of 100 species. You maintain the wisdom of millennia. Is that not a form of creation? Is that not nurturing?" His words were alien to her. No one had ever framed her existence in such terms. Her work was seen as a service, a suitable occupation for one with no other prospects. Not a calling. "Why do you speak to me?" she asked, genuine confusion in her voice. "Your exchange mission is with the architects, the genetic composers, The bondholders. Because you are the only one here who sees the past as something to learn from, not just admire, he said simply. The others, they live in a perfect present. You live in the weight of all our yesterdays. I find that more compelling. He began to visit the vault daily. He asked questions. He listened. He brought her strange human delicacies called shortbread and tea. He spoke of Earth, not of its wars, but of its stubborn, persistent life. Of forests that regrew after fire, of animals that adopted young not their own, of the human concept of family that was built not just on blood, but on choice, on loyalty. Her world, which had been shrinking to the size of her diagnosis, began to expand. He showed her images of human libraries, of vast digital networks preserving everything from great novels to the simple recipes of grandmothers. We are what we remember, he said. You are a keeper of that. It is the most important job. Over time, her calm mask began to soften around him. She found herself speaking not just of data, but of ideas. She laughed at his dry jokes. She felt, for the first time in cycles, seen. The change did not go unnoticed. Whispers followed them. A human, fraternizing with the infertile one. It was a curiosity, then a scandal. A prominent bondholder, the same who had spoken to her at the festival, came to the human liaison. This association is unseemly. It reflects poorly on your mission. That female? She is a void. Your soldier is wasting his time and causing disruption. The human liaison, a diplomat, called the soldier in. Is this true? This? Attachment? It is, the soldier said, unwavering. You understand her condition? I do. The Kairi are concerned. They see it as a perversion of their social order. The soldier met the diplomat's gaze. Their social order dismissed a brilliant mind because of a biological hiccup. I do not respect that order. The culmination came at the next major social gathering, a gala for Concord dignitaries. She was there, reluctantly, to assist with historical displays. The atmosphere was strained. The bondholder, emboldened by protocol and superiority, approached her in a crowd of guests. His voice was loud enough to carry. It is good to see you performing your function, he said, though one wonders if the human's interest is purely academic. Perhaps his species is less discerning, their bonds as crude and simple as their technology. The insult hung in the air. She froze, humiliation a cold wash. Before she could even form a response, a solid presence was at her side. The soldier did not shout. He did not gesture. He simply stepped between her and the Kairi, his posture shifting from observer to guardian. He looked at the bondholder and then deliberately, slowly, turned his gaze to her. He spoke in clear, unadorned Kairi, his accent rough but his meaning diamond clear. I claim her. The gasps were audible. The phrase was archaic, from a warrior tradition long abandoned. It did not mean possession. In its oldest form, it meant a vow of absolute protection, a declaration that one's strength was irrevocably bound to another's well-being. It was the root of their modern bond covenant, stripped of its genetic prerequisite. You, what? Sputtered the bondholder. The soldier kept his eyes on her, his gaze fierce and gentle all at once. I claim her. Her mind, her heart, her history. All that she is? I choose her as my mate. By my people's customs, and by the oldest law I find worthy here. He finally looked at the stunned Kairi. You measure life by its ability to replicate. We measure it by its ability to matter. She matters more than any of your perfect, replicating lines. The silence was absolute. The human diplomat, after a shocked moment, gave a slow, firm nod of support. The concept was foreign, shocking, even offensive to many. But it was also undeniably, powerfully true. It was a statement of value, based on something the Ki had forgotten: choice. And courage. In the aftermath, the universe did not right itself. Prejudices remained, but a crack had formed in the foundation. She was no longer a ghost. She was the one who had been claimed. They left Ki soon after. His assignment ended. On the human vessel, she stood at a viewport, watching the pristine, beautiful world shrink. She felt a hand, warm and calloused, envelop hers. "What is your family called?" She asked softly, using the human word. "On Earth," he said. "We would call it our own." She leaned into his solid, unwavering strength. A different kind of fertility blooming within her, the growth of a new beginning, in a soil they would make together. She was not a void. She was an archive, and he had chosen to write a new brave chapter with her. And for the first time, the future felt not like an empty space, but like a story waiting to be told.